Hey everyone, and welcome to the GB series by Disruptive Doctors. I'm your host today, Dr. Selena. Now, this is going to be a one part of a 3 episode. Today, we're talking about a topic many doctors avoid until it's too late: insurance, specifically indemnity insurance. Now, if you're a GP, a locum, an MO, or just fresh out of housemanship, you might be buying an insurance based on the price, but will your policy really protect you when it matters most? Now, joining me today is Japhire Gopikanan, founder of Dr. Shield, to break it all down for you. Hi, welcome, Japhire.
Hi, Dr. Selena. Thank you for the opportunity.
Now, let's talk about medical indemnity insurance. Now, what exactly is it? I know it sounds simple, but what exactly is it, and why is it so critical for young doctors?
Medical indemnity is to protect doctors against negligence. It's a fact that negligence do happen. It's not a guarantee that there will never be a negligence in services provided to the patient. So therefore, whenever there is some negligence, the liability or rather the damage caused to the patient can be high. It can be significantly high because it deals with lives and medical situation, which can be sometimes may not be even repaired. And therefore, the government of Malaysia have mandated indemnity insurance for all private sector doctors in 2019.
Is it only private sector? What about if I'm still working in the government?
So the law does not mandate indemnity insurance for the government sector doctors. It only mandates for private sectors. Nevertheless, it encourages, right? And very importantly, for government doctors who are doing locum, they are mandated to buy indemnity insurance by law.
Okay, so I think I previously had a doctor who, we were running a vaccination program and we wanted doctors with indemnity. And this doctor said that she had medical insurance, so that should cover. So maybe if you could just break it down, what is life insurance, what's medical insurance, and the difference, and what is indemnity?
Thank you for this question. Till today, we have a lot of queries from doctors, and we understand they are confused, right? So, number one, life insurance is really insuring against their life, or rather, it should be called death and disability. Medical insurance is to protect someone against medical expenses incurred in a hospital, pre and post hospitalization. And then you come to medical indemnity insurance. Medical indemnity insurance is not medical insurance. Medical indemnity insurance is only for healthcare professionals to protect them against negligence caused to their patients. So let me put it this way. When the patient sues the doctor and or the hospital and or the clinic, they have got to pay for the damages, for whatever repair, treatment, or alternative treatment, or damages caused to them and the family. And that has to be paid from the pockets of the doctors. And it can be quite a big amount. It can done in millions. And this is where the insurance comes in very, very handy. You don't have the time for the doctors to go and raise money, sell their house, and then settle the family. And therefore, the insurance comes in and says, okay, we will pay the damages. We also will pay to engage for a lawyer to determine what is the damages to settle as soon as possible. So medical indemnity pays for your defense lawyers and to pay for the cost incurred.
Okay, like what is the process like? So say if I was a young doctor, I was working the government, I also locum, and then I get sued. Like what would the process be like?
Okay, so typically if a locum is working in a clinic, say after the hospital hours or weekends, right? And if there is a complaint from a patient, the patient goes to the clinic and says, I incurred such a loss and I demand an apology and I demand that you pay me the entire amount and pay me for more so that I could get hospitalized somewhere else and take care of myself. So then the clinic would call up this locum and say, okay, you caused me a problem. So the locum has to now refer the case to their own insurance company and say, okay, I'm getting sued or I'm getting into a problem. Take care of this problem. And then the insurance company will engage a lawyer, determine the problem, scope it, come back to costs, and then they talk to the insurance company and say, okay, we have done our investigation and this is what your doctor has to pay now to the patient. Yeah, that's the normal process. So you file the claim, investigation takes place, defense counsel comes in, and then the payment gets done.
If say I was doing locum and I do not have, I mean, I'm a government doctor, so obviously I can still renew my license, but I do locum outside and I do not have an indemnity. And this actually happened. Like I get a lawsuit. Like then what? how would this be different?
So this is a very typical situation in Malaysia, I dare say, because we have been talking to a lot of doctors and we found that a lot of locum doctors, doctors who are in government sector doing locum in private, they think, I'm just working a few hours every week, 4 hours, 6 hours, and the amount I make is not even worth paying the insurance. And therefore, we are not paying insurance or we're not taking indemnity insurance. And then we ask them, so what about your declaration when you do your APC? They are supposed to declare if they're doing locum. And if they do, the APC renewal process involves asking them for adequate insurance. So how a lot of doctors work around this is they say, okay, at the point of APC renewal, I decided I would not do locum conveniently. And then they start doing locum. To cut the long story short, it's actually illegal to be doing locum without adequate insurance.
Okay, so if they were to do locum without this adequate indemnity and then they get into trouble, earlier on you mentioned a lot of the process like finding the lawyers. So this would all then fall on the doctor?
Yes. Yes. So typically the patient will go after the clinic and the doctors, and both of them have to represent themselves. So the clinic is also deemed to be a separate legal entity. So the clinic cannot say, no, the locum is answerable. No. The clinic will also get dragged on. So the clinic indemnity insurance has to be there in place for the clinic owner to protect him. And the locum needs to have his own insurance.
Has there been any case, like a case study where, I would always feel that, a lot of doctors feel that, okay, I'm just doing locum, very unlikely I'll get sued. Has there been a case where locum doctors do get sued?
Many, many, many. It's quite alarming, but locum doctors do get sued. That's first fact that's alarming. Second fact is they are not insured. So it's a double whammy. So they get into problem quite often than they would have otherwise imagined.
Can you share a case study?
So many that I don't know. I mean, I'm talking about large percentage of claims are actually because of locums. All right. So there was even one recently where this locum did a little surgery, a circumcision surgery, and the actual owner or the resident doctor have not seen the patient at all. So the family, because of unfavorable outcome, was going after the locum doctor, and they also dragged the clinic, right? And that was quite messy. That became quite messy.
Did he have indemnity?
No, so they had to pay on their own.
What was the amount that they had to settle
No.
for?
The ask was for this particular case that I remember was about the range of 50 to 70.
1,000. Wow.
Yeah.
So
They had to come back from Perak to KL. They have to drive down. There were a lot of emergency issues. They called. This guy didn't pick up. They had to seek another treatment, and this boy was bleeding profusely. So it quite got messy. Yeah.
wow. So a lot of young doctors, like even myself when I was still practicing, I would search for the cheapest plan on the market. So what's the risk of doing that?
Whenever this question is being asked, I always think of this particular story where there was a village chief who said that everybody must buy umbrella by tomorrow morning because there's going to be a hard acid rain. So everybody goes out there to buy any umbrella that is being sold. And then the acid rain does happen, and then they realize that most of the umbrellas were just cheap and convenient, but it was not to protect the risk that's coming their way. So yes, we have a law that says you all must have indemnity insurance, but what does it protect? What must it be, protecting you against? Nah, that's not really clearly been stated. So you'd rather think about what is comprehensive, right? You need to look at a comprehensive coverage. For example, aggravated coverage, aggravated damages. Aggravated damages are damages that's caused because a particular situation has been aggravated, and court has been ruling to pay in the range of 250,000 to 500,000 in the last few months for aggravated damages. But many of them who have an insurance policy with them will not have understood that their insurance will not cover aggravated damages, right? So those are, that's one example. There's a lot of actually other examples where they do not know what they are buying, what's going to cover. For example, a lot of them wouldn't know that defense costs will eat into their sum assured. For example, if they buy 1 million, and then there's a damage of 1 million, they would think that the insurance policy is sufficient, not knowing that the legal fees could be another 300,000 that they have to cough out from their own pocket. unless they buy an insurance policy that says that your policy will cover defense costs in addition to your sum assured.
What are aggravated damages?
Aggravated damages are caused because, let's say, a doctor has behaved in a way that they have aggravated the situation, just like the name suggests. So, for example, someone had been told to wait 8 hours and unnecessarily, and she has incurred more pain, and the situation has become really worse. You could have managed it better. And you actually have aggravated the situation. And therefore, they want to make sure that everyone understands that you're not supposed to do that. So the court does issue such additional damages, aggravated damages in such scenarios.
So earlier you mentioned that some of the policies only covers up to $1 million, and then there are defense costs and all this other costs. So can you walk us through what are the key things that we should be thinking about when we're comparing all the different policies and which one to get?
Okay. So number one key point, yeah, they should have a feature called retroactive date coverage. If it says it's the policy comes with unlimited retroactive date, that's very good news, because then they are covered from day one of their career. A lot of doctors will have surprise claims coming up in their career, maybe 3 years, 4 years down the road, even 6 years. And if they're dealing with children, it could be even more later. So they would not be prepared for such cases popping up unless they have an insurance policy with a feature called unlimited retroactive date. That's one feature that's important. The second one is lawyer's choice. In the event of a claim, every doctor wants to have a lawyer who represents them, who they can communicate with. And a doctor who has gone through a litigation will tell you this, right? They want to make sure that the lawyer understood them. They want to feel that the lawyer actually fought for them. And it may or may not be the case with all lawyers. Some lawyers are very busy. You cannot get hold of them. But the worst part is if the insurance company tells you that, sorry, you don't have a choice, but you have to use the lawyer that I've given you, it further puts them in a corner, right? The doctor feels like, okay, who are you actually protecting? You're supposed to protect me. That kind of dilemma. So that's where we have always encouraged the insured, who's a doctor, to look for a policy that actually allows them the final say on who's the lawyer who's going to represent them. So that's the second feature that I would say it's important. Third and most important, loss mitigation. You would want to settle cases as soon as it's possible, or rather you would want to avoid litigation if you can. So if you want to avoid litigation, let me just explain what is litigation. Yeah. If a case drags on without any resolution, goes to the court, that's called litigation, right? And litigation can take 3 to 5 years. And trust me, it can be a very traumatic experience, exchanging hundreds of documents, having sleepless nights, and you don't know where the case is going to be over. And that's usually the case with litigation. There's no real winners. So if you want to avoid litigation, you hope that the plaintiff would agree to settle at some point much earlier. But you need to have an insurance policy that says, okay, I'm going to give you a budget to appoint a lawyer, although there is no litigation against you, but to try to find a way to settle the case as soon as possible to reduce the risk. And that's called loss mitigation. So it's a specific clause or feature added in insurance policy. So if you do not have it, then you don't have the budget to appoint a lawyer. The insurance company typically will say, okay, you're not sued. Why do I need to engage a lawyer for you? So I would say a loss mitigation clause is extremely important. So these three could be, without going further into other details, I think these three could be important pointers to look out for when they buy their own insurance to protect them against medical negligence.
What about price?
What about price? I think the market is very, very competitive. It's very competitive, right? Of course, there's no real winners for going down as cheap and cheap and cheap, because it will eventually not sustain, right? With all these claims and all that. I mean, I don't think so. We should encourage a competition to be the cheapest in the market. But having said that, I think the market has enough players to make the premiums very competitive. Malaysian indemnity insurance market is very competitive, thanks to the fact that this has become mandated. You have enough insurance companies playing. It's just that I urge all doctors to look up, read up, and understand what they are buying, not blindly buying the cheapest that comes their way. That becomes a, yeah.
I had one doctor who mentioned he doesn't need it because he'll be very careful. What are your thoughts on that?
I hope all doctors are careful, and I'm sure that is part of their job to be careful. Doctors do not buy insurance because they may not want to be careful. They are all careful. That's fine. But accidents do happen. Yeah, you're buying insurance because you want to transfer the risk that could be a very low frequency but high damage, high severity. That's the reason why you buy insurance.
Yeah, I've heard this phrase somewhere, or I read it somewhere. Every patient is a walking lawsuit or a potential lawsuit, something along those lines. Is that what you're trying to say?
Uh, you know, there have been some changes in the market, I have to admit. Ever since the indemnity insurance became mandated, there has been some changes. Let me explain the changes. Number one, there's a lot of insurance companies that has come in. Number two, a lot of insurance agents wants to sell indemnity insurance. Number three, there is a lot of lawyers who are looking into this space because there's definitely going to be a lot of action. And lawyers usually will start with plaintiff. Yeah. So what it means is it brings about a heightened alert or heightened awareness for patients to know their rights. Nothing wrong. This is right. Yeah, it just brings efficiency to the market. So with the heightened alert, patients know they are right. Now they go after the doctors when they feel that they have not been served well, which is fine. But what all this means is it means there's going to be increased frequency of claims, which is a fact. The claims, I think, in my opinion, it should be at least 1,000 this year.
Well, that's
Yeah.
a lot.
That's a lot. It's been growing. We have been witnessing a steady growth over the last 5 years. So some of them, to emphasize the seriousness of this situation, would have said that every patient is a walking lawsuit, but I think it's a bit of exaggeration. But maybe it is to emphasize that yes, you must be careful. Every patient has a right to sue you, which is true. It's their right. They entrust you with their life. So what's wrong?
Yeah, I saw that quote. I think it's from a doctor who wrote it. It was a book or something. Yeah, so that opened my eyes. So how is Dr. Shields' approach different, especially for younger doctors and those locum doctors?
We have priced ourselves very competitively for locums. Yeah, so that's the truth. We have tried to educate a lot of doctors. We actually hold a lot of regular webinars to educate them. With or without they buying Dr. Shri, it doesn't matter to us. We just want to make sure that they know they have to be covered. We have also tiered pricing for locums who work lesser hours compared to flat, 40 hours a week. I think it's much lesser. We have tiered pricing for them. Yeah, these are the changes that we have done for locums to invite them to be covered.
Okay. Is there anything else regarding protection for junior doctors that we've not touched that you think is important?
Junior doctors, they must insure themselves if they are doing locum. This cannot be negotiated. If you are the government sector doing locum, even if it's a 1-2 hours per week, and even if you think it is not worth buying insurance because you are not getting paid that much, I urge you to rethink because the risk is high. We have seen locums who took it lightly and end up paying a lot more amount than they would have paid the insurance. So the insurance actually is a cheaper offer
Yeah,
compared to the
because
risk that
thinking
they
about the
expose.
risk of you just need one mistake that will just bring everything down.
Yeah, and I think it's also worth reminding the doctors that the liability is theirs. It's personal liability. They cannot escape it. It is their personal liability, and personal liability can be unlimited. They may need to sell whatever they have. A lot of doctors do not understand that being exposed can kill their career fast.
You know, that's quite interesting. I think I heard of a case of an anesthetist who had a lawsuit of 2 million and she had to sell everything off, pay it off, and she quit and decided to not practice anymore. And she went back home to her kampong somewhere.
Yeah, it's a real story. There are more. So this is where the difference comes in, right? If you're a clinic owner and if you have a paid up capital, it's a private limited in Japhire, your liability is limited. You're fine. Most is goes into bankruptcy, you wind down the company, finish. But if it's a claim against an individual doctor, then they can go all the way on your personal assets, and there's no limit to how much you can lose. So, yeah, as I mentioned, insurance is really the cheapest option.
Okay, thank you, Japhire, for shedding light on something that is not really talked about. So, guys, remember your future depends on the coverage you choose today, so don't leave it to chance. So, get informed and stay protected. Now, to learn more about Dr. Shield, click on the link below. And also, Dr. Shield will be at our Disruptive Doctors Conference and Exhibition this 20th and 21st of September in Sime Darby Convention Center. So be sure to come and check them out. Now, in our next episode, we'll be talking about what happens when you go from a locum to a clinic owner. Now, we'll speak more there. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Selina. Thank you.
Join Disruptive Doctors. Oh, Disruptive Doctors. Impact.